The man who fell from the Chelsea Bridge yesterday has reportedly died in hospital from his injuries. The IOPC has said that on Sunday the man, aged in his early 40s, had died in hospital and that an independent inquiry was underway. IOPC Director Steve Noonan said, "We've spoken to the man's family to express our sincere condolences and explain our involvement. Our sympathies remain with them at this terrible time. Our independent investigation is underway into the police actions at the bridge and we have begun gathering and reviewing evidence." I know this story has divided people in the comments, and to be honest, that's good because it generates debate. Unless you're one of the few dickheads who comment without thinking or even actually knowing what you're talking about. And you know who you are. For the rest of you who share your opinions and attack any potential issue you have with my opinions rather than attack me, I thank you. However, I do want to point out something for those of you who are bootlickers and trolls who, and thank you by the way for helping with the algorithms, will be watching this video in the hope that they can slag me off in the comments some more. I want to point out some similarities between my first report yesterday and one from your brainwashing media propaganda favourites, the BBC, which makes me wonder why you might attack me for sharing what's available at the time, whilst no doubt protecting and arguing that the BBC is better. In fact, I didn't see any of your bitchy comments in the comments to their article. In my first video, I mentioned how the man was tasered and then fell from the bridge. That's the words I used, fell from the bridge. And I got attacked in the comments by some trolls who tried to call me out on it, saying he didn't fall, he jumped, you're an idiot. Well then tell me why I've not seen your comments in the comments of the BBC article, which, I might add, was published after my video, in which it said, "A man is in critical condition after being tasered by police and falling in the River Thames." Oh, wait, what? The BBC said that too? How can that be? Well, it's because that is the information that was available at the time. In fact, they said, shooting the man with a taser did not enable the officers to safely detain him, and he subsequently entered the river. So he fell and he entered the river. But nothing about him jumping. Isn't that odd? In my first video I mentioned no proof of a screwdriver, which some people trolled again, saying that they could see a screwdriver in the video released by the Sun newspaper, which I shared in my second video, which in my last video proved that you were talking bollocks, as the screwdriver was dropped well away from where the Sun picked the video up from when the guy was directly in front of the vehicle of the guy that was filming. So no, you didn't see the screwdriver at that point. Knobheads. In the BBC report, again, which was published after my video, it mentions that police were called to reports of a man armed with a screwdriver and shouting. But then again fails to be generous with the truth, if the truth was known at that time, by not mentioning it again in the article. In fact, they pick up by saying video shared online shows two officers confronting the man who falls to the ground after the taser is discharged. He eventually gets up and runs to the side of the bridge and is seen to pull himself over the edge before either officer can reach him. I obviously updated my reports by releasing a new one when further information came available, which is what I do and what I would expect is expected of me, rather than simply leaving the facts out and letting people make a conclusion based on inaccurate facts. So therefore, all of those who thought they could troll me and try and show me up or call me a liar or whatever your aim was yesterday, I think I can confidently say, go fuck yourselves. And that you are the ones who made fools out of yourselves. I do want to thank the subscriber who sent me the longer version of the video. That helped massively in the updates, but I don't know your name, so I can't thank you personally, but thank you all the same. I'm constantly saying that videos need to be shared in their entirety so we can make better conclusions as to what's occurred, rather than have to rely on edited or carefully picked pieces of footage. Now, I will give my opinion on what I think about the situation. The guy clearly had a screwdriver, as evident from the longer video I was sent after the first two updates. The police, in a situation where they're faced with someone with a weapon, and this would have been classed as a weapon at the time as he was brandishing it the way he was, have a duty of care to both the suspect and the public, as well as to themselves. Personally, I think the taser could have been substituted for Parva or CS gas, which I think would have done a far better job. If you can't see, you can't exactly run off, and it's likely the shock of being sprayed would have made him relinquish the weapon. But the police tasered the guy, not once, but what appears to be 3 times at least. Now this puts a person's body into shock, which will initiate fight or flight mode, one of the most basic human instincts. The fact they tasered him more than once is enough to make anyone want to run away from the danger, and being able to see means more chance of running away. Now, I'm not suggesting the police shouldn't have used a taser, because in some situations they need to be used, but I think incapacitated spray would have been best. But regardless to that, after the police tasered him once, maybe the second time, the screwdriver was dropped. The white cop kicked it away, which meant the immediate threat to life at which point was gone, at which point the Parva or CS gas could have been used. Instead, the white cop simply danced around a bit and allowed the suspect to get up onto his feet. Now here's some advice for you. When somebody's on the floor, you keep them there. You don't allow them to get back up again. That's just basic. There was nothing stopping white boy from getting on the fella's legs and then the black cop moving in to restrain the man's torso. I understand it was a fast-moving situation, but police are allegedly trained and go through regular training to ensure they can react in fast-moving situations, or at least they used to be. Of course, it now seems that they're taught to fire first and ask questions later. But when you're the custodian of several weapons that could inflict serious or even deadly damage to someone, then you should only be allowed to carry those weapons if you are calm under pressure and can think critically. Which I believe is why we don't hear of as many shooting incidents from our police, albeit we do hear of some. Nowhere near as many as deaths or injuries after taser or baton strikes, which tell me that regular plod are not mentally equipped enough to be carrying those weapons themselves. In my reports yesterday, I never mentioned anything that wasn't evident from what was seen or being reported, and of course, as I say many times, when something new comes up, I will update any previous reports with a new one. I do think, however, that the fact the man was allowed to get up to his feet and run was probably the single factor that led to his injury and subsequent death. Even when the guy was at the barrier at the edge of the bridge, the police approached him and the guy took a swing at White Boy, but White Boy not only ducked out of the way, but also moved away by some feet, allowing the man time to throw himself over the barrier. So I'm not saying they shouldn't have acted, because for public safety, clearly they should have. But there was no one around in immediate danger other than the police. Passers-by were in their vehicles, safe. So incapacitant spray, I believe, would have been a better choice, although the copsuckers will simply say, well, you weren't there, how do you know? You've never been in that situation, and whatever other bullshit you come out with. But as a reply to one of my trolls this morning, I have actually had to talk a man down who had a knife once, many years ago. But yes, I have been in a situation where I've been confronted by a very angry person with a weapon. And guess what? I didn't have a taser, a baton, Parva spray or training, but I got him to drop the knife and leave. But anyway, they clearly needed to react to the situation, but I think their arses fell out and they panicked, reaching for the comfort blanket of the taser. They needn't have tasered him multiple times, especially after dropping the screwdriver, and they should have been able to restrain the guy once he was unarmed and not give him the opportunity to get to his feet and run. Now, remember, that is simply an opinion based on what I've seen. If you have a problem with that opinion, then let's discuss it without being childlike and calling people fatty. You say, BFC, can you manage that? If you have a problem with my opinion, then attack the opinion, not the person. As we all make opinions differently based on the same information we receive. It doesn't make either of us right or wrong. It just means that we've interpreted information differently, and seeing as I'm not stating facts in my opinions, and make it clear when they're opinions, when I'm not reporting of facts, then I would expect a certain degree of maturity from people. But I guess in this country where we are now constantly pitted against each other and made to hate others, it's not really surprising. But what is surprising is that you bootlickers and copsuckers who claim to have the moral high ground all the time are the ones who stoop so low and abuse and attack the individual rather than the opinion you disagree with. As for the rest of you, thank you so much for being part of the PAP community and respecting each other. as the vast majority of you do.